Hi there everyone and welcome to TechCravers. This is the very popular sub-$100 handheld Powkiddy RGB30. And if you're somewhat interested in this niche, you have probably already seen lots of videos out there telling you just how amazing this handheld is. Big boys like Russ from Retro Game Corps and Taki have both said that this is one of their favorite handhelds lately. This is not one of those videos. Kind of. Okay, first thing first, I want to throw out a big shout out to Mech DIY for sending me this RGB30 for review. They supplied me with the device, but they haven't paid me of course, and they haven't seen the video in advance. If you want to check out the RGB30 at their site or any other popular handheld for that matter, I will of course leave a link to them in the video description. So thanks again to Mech DIY for sending me this RGB30. But back to the unboxing, and apart from the handheld itself, the only other thing we get is this USB-A to USB-C charging cable. And this is the handheld itself. First impression is that it's quite a solid product. It's definitely super angular in every way. It's actually so angular that you can spin it off a flat surface and it won't even fall over. Build quality feels good considering the price. And speaking of that, let's take a minute to check out the overall design of the RGB30. On the front we have dual analog Nintendo Switch-like sticks, and just below them we have dual frontal speakers. The rubber membrane D-pad feels pretty good, even though it's not my favorite kind, but it will get the job done. And on the opposite side we have quite big face buttons that also feels nice and bouncy when I click them. The Switch-like joysticks are recessed in the shell and barely protrude more than the face buttons, which of course is fantastic for pocketability. However, it might also make it a bit less ergonomic. On the top we find inline shoulder buttons, which aren't as good as stacked shoulder buttons, but at least the L2 and R2 are raised slightly to make them more reachable. Then we have weirdly reversed volume buttons, yet again from a Powkiddy product, and then we have the HDMI output port, a reset button, and a power button that will also function as the fast sleep button. At the bottom we have dual USB ports, one for charging and one for peripherals, and we also have dual SD slots, one for the operating system and one for the games. And in the middle we also have a 3.5mm headphone jack. And the back of the handheld is probably the cleanest and most flat back I have ever seen, and it contributes to the extremely angular and blocky feel that the RGB30 has overall. And here's a quick comparison to the Switch Lite analog sticks, and as you can see they protrude much more than the ones on the RGB30. The entire RGB30 can also fit between the analog sticks on the Switch Lite. Alright, so that's it for the first impressions and overall layout overview. Now let's talk about the actual user experience of this device. Also, if you want the more typical performance tests on this device, you can actually go and watch my review of the Powkiddy RGB30 after this, as that's basically the exact same device on the inside but in another form factor. Okay, so if you have no idea what you're doing and haven't owned a retro emulator handheld before, in terms of pick up and play, the RGB30 won't give you that much of a headache. It has Gel OS or Jealous operating system installed, and if you want to buy it with the extra game card, it's pretty straightforward. However, I recommend that you go into the system settings and enable your Wi-Fi connection and update the system to the latest version of Jealous, since that will give you more stability and better performance in some occasions as well. The RGB30 comes pre-configured, and for most people who don't want to tweak anything but just want to play their old favorites, it will work very well. However, instead of using the whole beautiful 720p 4x3 screen, most emulators are configured to have these bezels in the top and the bottom, which people tend to love or hate. Personally, I can't really understand why you would make a 4x3 screen and then not make use of its full potential. Luckily, it's quite easy to remove the bezels. You can go into the Tools section and start up RetroArch. In RetroArch you go into Settings and then into User Interface, then On-Screen Display and lastly On-Screen Overlay. From here you can choose the style and size of the bezels, or as I will do, completely turn them off. Now I still haven't tweaked the aspect ratio here to fill out the whole screen, but it's already a much better experience if you ask me. Now, so far so good, right? It's been a decent ride so far, but the main reason I'm not sure I could recommend the RGB30 to people is due to the utterly worthless charging capability, or lack thereof, that Powkiddy seems to incorporate into their handhelds. I had about 60% charge on my RGB30 when it arrived, which allowed me to make my initial settings and get started. Meanwhile, I left my charging cable in to keep some juice for recording gameplay later in the evening, but when I attempted to start recording later on, my RGB30 had completely discharged. It also seemed very unwilling to accept a charge no matter what I tried or which charger I used. But after fiddling for about 10 or 15 minutes, I finally got it to charge and could continue my recordings. That was also when I found out that Russ from Retro Game Corps actually dedicates an entire section in his written RGB30 setup guide to charging tips and tricks. And if tips and tricks are required to charge a tech gadget in 2023, then we know that the company behind the product has some serious problems. I get a new device to review basically each and every week, but never before have I needed a guide on how to charge the product. And this is actually so stupid I don't even know what to say. And that's actually not even the worst part. I left my RGB30 on my desk while charging and noticed that it became very hot. If I use my IR temp on a random spot on my desk, you can actually see that it's about 28 degrees. But where my RGB30 has been charging, it's actually 40 degrees. And while 40 degrees is not exactly super hot, I have other products that become hot as well, but that paired with the charging issues makes it worth noting if you ask me. I wouldn't give this to a child that might be charging it in bed or under a pillow or whatever. So as I sit here trying to sum up my thoughts on the Powkiddy RGB30, I'm not quite sure where to begin. Initially, I naturally thought that I had received a faulty unit because I had such trouble charging my device. However, when I saw Russ' guide, I realized that this is something to expect when purchasing an RGB30. For me, this simply makes it difficult to understand why the RGB30 has been praised as much as it has. Of course, I can also appreciate the extremely sharp and high resolution for its size screen, the compact form factor and the clever solution to make it pocketable, along with the overall straightforward user interface. However, all of this fades into insignificance when I have to spend half the time I use it ensuring that it actually charges when I plugged in the charger. I seldom get very critical on my channel. After all, I'm operating in a niche where the products I receive have to be better than its predecessor and competitors for customers to buy them. So it's easy to sound like a broken record when I constantly think that the products get better and better. But this time I've had so many frustrating problems that I actually am not sure that the RGB30 is a great device for you to buy. If you want a handheld that can fit in your pocket and that you can start playing your favorite retro games up to PlayStation without any tweaking, and you want to do it on a great looking screen, then absolutely the RGB30 might be the device for you. However, there are cheaper devices out there that might not have the same 720p screen, but that will have the same or even better performance than the RGB30 and that will charge no matter which charger you use. So I hope you liked this honest review of the Powkiddy RGB30 and that you might consider letting me know by giving the video a thumbs up. Also comment down below what you think of the device, and also please let me know if you have encountered any of the issues I talk about with your handheld if you already own it. Thanks for watching the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and I will catch you in the next one. TechCravers out.